All right, everybody. Hello, Top Fan Rivalry family, followers, supporters, everybody, everything in between. Life is good. It's Wednesday. Every other Wednesday, I do DWD with TFR. But this week, that's not the case. This week, I'm with Scott. We're going to talk about some Dodger baseball. We're going to talk about the National League. I will repeat this to everybody when we start getting people on, but feel free to put the comments or your comments or questions in the question box. We will answer all of them. At the bottom, you see tfr.com/clubhouse. That is a free thing that you can go into. There's articles, there's different podcast things that have been in there. Go get yourself in there. But I want to introduce Scotty. If you haven't seen him before, I want to introduce Scotty, and then we're going to pay some bills. What's up, Scotty? Big Dodger fan.
Yep.
You can tell he's a big USC fan by his hoodie.
Yeah, huge. Look, this isn't really that indicative of my fandom. It just happens to match the pants I'm wearing. So that's more important to me than fandom. Although I always have kind of been a closet UCLA fan, mostly because of their colors since I was a kid. So I do love me some UCLA basketball, though. So
there you go. There you go. UCLA. So Scotty's a big Dodger fan. He has been on. We did last year. We did Dodger Talk with Scotty on the audio version. So now we're gonna get a couple of lives going on. We're gonna talk Dodger baseball. We're gonna talk the National League. But before we do that, let's get some bills paid. We want to thank our corporate sponsors for everything that they do for us. We are so grateful for them. We want to thank Terrence Edwards over at Tech Law Ventures in the great state of Utah. He's the one that did the trademark for Top Fan Rivalry. He's done a bunch of trademarking for us. Great guy, great, easy to work with, very, very, very reasonably priced. You can catch him on our website. In addition to that, BHR Law Group, Blaine Birch over in Aliso Viejo, California, is one of our corporate sponsors. He handles trust. So if you're looking for an estate plan, he is your guy. So that pays the bills. And there's another thing, Scotty. I'm going to read this here.
Okay.
Our good friend Emma out in Florida is doing kind of a readathon thing, and she's trying to raise money for her school. If anybody's interested in this, reach out to us and we'll send you a message on it. But her elementary school is trying to raise $25,000, and they're doing really well. Emma is in, I think, second or third place. The readathon or the thing was today, but they're going to keep the donations open for another week. Here's what's cool about this, Scotty, is if she comes in first through seventh place, she gets to choose whether or not she wants to throw a pie in the face of her own mother or the principal. And I mean, so we got to keep this girl in the top 7 for sure. I think she's hovering between second and third. Listen, this girl's going to be able to throw pie in her mother's face. So why not? You should be able to be excited about that, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, that's fun. I love fun stuff like that.
100%.
Harmless pranks and fun. Tomfoolery. We'll go for that. As long as it's harmless.
There you go. Like I said before, if anybody has any questions, wants to say anything during with the questions or the comments will be on the website. You can see that there. So feel free to put anything in there you would like. But let's get to Dodgers baseball. Scotty, give us your take of the Dodgers review of 2025. I mean, obviously the World Series, but give us a little bit of the breakdown.
Look, we struggled with injuries all year. Key guys, role players, everybody. I mean, we talked about it about this time last year. We talked going into the season that was the one worry we had, was if everyone can stay healthy. Sadly, not everyone did, but Dodgers maintained where they could. The one luck we kind of had was a lot of the big guys that we were missing weren't gone overlapping a lot. They were some, but not. And look, we rounded into form heading into the playoffs, finished the regular season on a tear, kind of tore through the playoffs until we got to the World Series. And then for some reason, it was such the roller coaster, especially for our bats. But look, the Dodgers made the plays when they needed to. You have, I mean, geez, there's like Miguel Rojas will forever be part of Dodger lore if he never does anything else. And he didn't just have one; he had at least 3 plays in those last 2 games that were huge.
Yeah.
Both defensively and at the plate. And look, champions find a way to win. And Toronto was a great team and a worthy adversary. I'm actually kind of sad they lost Bo Bichette for them. Plus, he's going to the Mets. So, but no, I mean, it was a great World Series. It was a lot of fun. I remember thinking in Game 7, man, even if they don't win this, what an incredible World Series this was, and how cool, to be in back-to-back World Series, but then to finish it off and win. And look, we unveiled a superstar to the rest of the world in Yamamoto. I mean, that was just the performance from him in the World Series. We don't even come close to winning that if it's not for him this last year. That's about as close to a runaway and unanimous MVP of a World Series as you're ever going to get.
200%. And yeah, exactly. And by the way, Mikey points out a good message there too. He says, and he only played in those 2 World Series games. So
yeah. I mean, look, that was huge. And don't discount with Yamamoto. Don't discount his willingness to go into that long game that he ended up not having to go into. But his willingness and the faces on other players on that team, you could tell what that meant to them, that this guy was in the trenches and ready to do whatever it took to win a World Series.
Yeah.
And when you know your superstars are doing that, the rest of the team is like, well, I got to make sure I'm stepping up too. And everybody did. And I think that was almost as important as the actual on the field dominance that he had throughout the playoffs. But that's, that like I said, champions find a way to win. And, the Dodgers did it when the bats weren't as hot as they could have been, when the pitching overall, wasn't where we would have liked it to be. They found a way to win.
Yeah. So they found a way to win. You're absolutely right. It was unique to watch. I was so excited that the Reds got in. I mean, because I have a little bit of excitement for that team. I was terribly sad when they drew the Dodgers. I was hoping that they drew in division with the Cubs, but I kind of knew it was David and Goliath. Although anything can happen in baseball, but it turned out to truly be David and Goliath.
Yeah.
I figured whoever won the Philly Dodgers series was going to the Fall Classic. And then let's be honest, Milwaukee didn't do much battle. I mean, Milwaukee barely snuck by their first round. So it didn't surprise me a lot that it worked out the way that it did.
Well, and it didn't me either, Bill, because especially the way we finished the regular season.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was pretty high percentage of wins in their last 15 or so games, and really just kind of rounded into form. We got a couple guys back from off the injured list, and they hit the ground running. We kind of ran into a buzzsaw that was the Blue Jays, but look, if you're just a pure baseball fan, take any fandom out of it. Anytime a series goes seven games, that's what you want. And I mean, it was great. And like I said, it was one of those, even as a Dodgers fan, it was kind of sad that either of those teams had to lose that series, because it was such a great baseball series, back and forths. And, neither team was perfect. Both teams made big mistakes that could have ended the series earlier. And, it just didn't. It kept going, and they kept recovering, and guys kept stepping up. And man, I can tell you, I think you'd agree with this too. Major League Baseball would write a script like that for 7-game series all the time. They take that every year in the World Series. They take a series like that. So
yeah, it is fun. Anyway. It's fun to watch those series, right?
Yeah.
You get excited.
It gets you excited. And look, when your team wins and blows teams out, it's fun, but it's not as fun as when they're squeaking a few wins out, and when there's late inning drama and, like you said, Mickey Rojas hitting one out when he's 0 for a million.
Mickey Rowe.
Like it's one of my family's favorite sayings is from why does the name escape me? The movie with Brad Pitt about Billy Beane. Moneyball. How can you not be romantic about baseball? And
how could you not be romantic about baseball? Exactly.
That's just, my family loves that saying. My family's a big baseball family. Anyone who's seen me or listened to Bill and I over the last few years knows that my family has always been big baseball fans. Both my dad and my grandpa played college baseball and for the University of Wyoming. And so it's always been just part of the fabric of my family. And we are, and it's, I know my family's mostly Yankee fans, so they were bummed they weren't in there, and they were cheering at least as hard against the Blue Jays as they were for the Dodgers on my behalf. But we also think about my grandpa, who was a big Dodgers fan. Rest in peace. But he, we know he's looking and smiling when the Dodgers play well. So
yeah, Scotty and I went to a World Series game back in 2017, and he was wearing his grandpa's jacket.
Yeah.
And that was the coolest thing ever. That was just lights out awesome.
I still run across that picture sometimes scrolling through my stuff, and it still kind of chokes me up a little bit just thinking about that and my grandpa. And Bill, I always tell people this, that game, the Dodgers lost that game that we were at. That's the best baseball game I've been to in person, and my team lost. That was such a fun baseball game. But yeah, like it's what a great season. What a way, back to back. It hadn't happened in a while in baseball since the Yankees. So yeah, now we're on bigger, hopefully better things.
So tell me about those bigger, better things.
Making Pat Riley some money on his patent on three-peat.
Exactly.
No, I mean, look, we're heading into the season, and there always is, hope springs eternal in baseball, but there's always questions heading into spring training too. And we're what, a couple of weeks from pitchers and catchers reporting?
Yeah. So what do you think about the Dodgers this season? I mean, obviously they're paying Kyle Tucker what the GDP of small countries is. For like 20 minutes to wear a Dodgers uniform. I'm being facetious, but that surprised me that we got that. But tell me what you think going into this series, the season, and tell me where you think we're strong and where we're weak. Because I get messages all the time, Scotty, from people, and they say, why aren't the Dodgers making moves in the offseason? Well, what do we need?
Look, here's the thing, right? It's that kind of fine line that the general manager, the president, the player ops, anyone involved with decision making on trades, on free agent signings. Obviously, the draft for baseball is a different story than the other sports because it's in the middle of the season. But right now, those are the things in the discussions that are going on, and those guys that are in charge of that are looking. And like I said, the fine line that they are trying to walk is, we just won the World Series for the second year in a row. Like, we got a good squad, so we don't want to upset the apple cart. But by the same token, we just talked about it. There are, bats got cold in the World Series. Our pitching was not where we're used to as Dodger fans having our pitching. Top to bottom, starters and bullpen. There were some guys that fell out of favor with Dave Roberts, and rightly so. I'm not blaming Dave, but they weren't pitching well this last year, and so they didn't get gone to in the postseason as much because their trust wasn't there. And I think for me, you want to make moves, because if you don't, you're heading in the other direction. You've got to try to do a couple things, but you don't want to do too much. So that's the fine line that those guys are walking for every team. But they have to figure out how far from that do we stray. So we'll see. The Kyle Tucker one surprised me a little bit. From our earlier, I was hoping Cody Bellinger might be back. I think I heard rumblings that was at least a possibility, but it sounds like, and especially now, looks like he was always wanting to be a Yankee. and to be back there in New York. And good for him. Good for the Yankees. They need that bat in their lineup. That's a guy they'll have for a couple years, and that's a perfect stadium for him to hit in.
Yeah,
that short porch and right. But once we signed Kyle, I knew, okay, that won't happen. Kyle's probably our only big signing. And then maybe there'll be some smaller ones. And look, I think the biggest concern for the Dodgers is pitching. And that's top to bottom. Yeah, you've got Yamamoto. We've got Glasnow. We've got Blake Snell. So you've got these guys who should, on paper, be able to step up and pitch. And hopefully we can get a full season out of those two. On top of Yamamoto. Shohei's back to pitching, so we'll be seeing him a lot more in the rotation this year. But you got some guys coming off the injured list. River Ryan, I'm really excited about seeing. Hopefully he can start reaching some of his potential that everyone pretty much thought he had. And hopefully some of our relievers. Look, they didn't make a ton of moves. I get that, but again, you just won 2 straight World Series. It's more of a tweak and an add here and an add there than, it's not like you're blowing up the entire team and starting from scratch. There were, look, part of the problem in the World Series was all of our hitters decided to go over at the same time.
That's true.
So what are you going to do? That's that part of that's just baseball and the law of averages.
So Mikey brings up a good point. And by the way, anybody that's watching this, if you want to add comments in or questions, we'll answer them. We'll take them on. So the Dodgers, the way that I count, and I went to public school, so the way that I count, I've got 8 different starters. I've got Shohei Ohtani. I've got Roki Sasaki. I've got Glasnow. I've got Mr. I've never gotten a good night's sleep a day in my life, Blake Snell. And then I've got Yamamoto. So there's my top 5.
Okay.
Add to that, actually, I got 9. Add to that Gavin Stone. Add to that River Ryan. Add to that Emmett Sheehan. And add to that Justin Robleski. So you've got 9 starting pitchers, which is awesome. And then we hired another closer because Tanner Scott, I don't know what happened.
Who knows? Who knows what happened there? I'm still baffled by that.
So, Scott, do you know how hard it is for me to say Tanner Scott's name? Because you and I both know a Scott Tanner. So when they signed Tanner Scott, every time I see it, I'm like, wait a second.
I know. I do the same thing. Like I want to reverse those and call him Scott Tanner. No, it's Tanner Scott. Scott Tanner's the guy that we know from Aliso Viejo.
Yeah,
he's not the pitcher for the Dodgers.
Yeah, and Landon Knack is another one that Mikey mentions. I mean, he did eat up some innings. Will Klein, I don't know if he's in the bullpen or what he is, but that dude saved the World Series for us.
Right. Oh, dude, that and that's the thing, right? That's one of the great things again about the World Series, just in general, is you end up with guys like Will Klein, who just come out of nowhere, and sometimes they shine bright and they go away, but sometimes they shine bright and they last for a long time, and that was their coming out party. So let's hope that game was Will Klein's coming out party, and that he can build on that and become a more trusted arm out of that bullpen. So they don't win that game without him.
So if Dave goes left, right, like he likes to do, right?
Right.
This is maybe the way that the lineup looks, and I'll use my own nicknames for people. Some of them you may have heard, some of them you haven't, but you got Shohei Ohtani leading off, right?
Okay. Yep.
Marcus Lynn Betts batting second.
Yep. That's and again, for those who don't know.
Yeah. If I'm going left, right, Los Dientes bats third and plays first. Freddie the Teeth, right? The Fresh Prince of LA bats fourth in Will Smith, right?
Yep.
And then it gets a little willy wonky because you can either go with Max Muncy or Kyle Tucker fifth, right? And then it depends. So if you go Tucker fifth, then then sixth you'll probably go what?
Teoscar,
yeah. And then seventh would be probably Max, and then 8th would be Mr. I've Got It. I'm going to save the World Series, and Paez 8th, and then Tommy Tanks batting 9th.
What do you do with Tommy? They're saying he's probably not back by the start of the season. He won't miss significant time, but they don't think he's going to be back. He's going to be still rehabbing when the season starts.
You know what? You play Tommy wherever you can play him. I mean, that guy is a spark plug. Maybe not the same caliber talent. What's that?
Who gets that position though? That second base when he's not until he's healthy. Who do you put in there? Do you put Miggy Rojas in there? Do you put
probably? Yeah, you probably put. So Miggy Rowe played a lot of third base when he came up. So you can put Miggy at third and move Max over to second, or put Miggy Rowe at second, or even Kim.
Hey, look, Miggy made two. Miggy was on the receiving end of 2 incredible plays at second base in the World Series. So we know he can handle the heat there. So
he was, but he also saved Clayton Kershaw's no-hitter at third base.
Yes, he did. Yes, that's true. That's true.
So which one do we want?
I'm glad. Look, I guess my main point is I'm just glad Miggy Rojas is back because.
Me too.
You know, and look, he's not currently on the roster, but everything I've seen and read, we're going to have the other Hernandez, Kike will be back by the time he's done with rehabbing and all that.
He won't be back till June.
Right, summertime, about a little before the All-Star break, probably.
I caught you off guard with Los Dientes, didn't I?
I like it though. It's good.
I give all credit to our friend Carrie, whose mom uses that term. She refers to him in Spanish as the one with the teeth. So, I mean, much love for that.
With the teeth. That's so funny.
All right, I got more questions for you. Before we do that, we want to go back to our corporate sponsors. We want to thank them. Terrence Long at Terrence Edwards at Tech Law Ventures in Utah. They do trademarking, and Blaine Birch at BHR Law Group in Aliso Viejo. They do estate planning. So if you're looking for an estate plan or you're looking to get trademarked, feel free to reach out to us. If you don't find it on our website, feel free to reach out to us. And yep. So, all right. So now, Scotty, next question for you. I'm pulling up some stuff that I was thinking about. I don't want to miss it. Okay. The West.
Yep.
Okay. So right now, Colorado has done nothing. Well, I mean, they signed a couple.
Oh, they've done kind of the opposite. They've sent most of their, not most, but they've sent a couple guys away for prospects. So they're back in rebuilding mode.
They lost like 147 games last season.
I know. Well, look, what do you want me to say? They traded away the 2 names I recognize on their team within the last like 3 days for prospects. So
yeah.
I don't know what's going. Look, I get it. That's a weird place to play. The ball flies out of that ballpark. You know, I don't know. I don't know what the answer for the Rockies is.
So I guess
maybe you move them. Maybe you move them across the Rockies, Salt Lake. They could still be the Rockies, and you're about 1,600 feet lower in elevation, so you won't have the ball flying quite as much. I don't know. Just a thought.
I think there's be some people in Denver that'd be pretty ticked off about that. But the Rockies haven't done anything, and we're going to come back to that because you've got a legal background, and I'm going to ask you a question here.
Okay.
But we'll come back to that. So the Rockies haven't done much. Arizona has kind of sort of said, hey, we want to compete. We're not sure that we want to compete.
Right.
The Padres, you know, not a lot has happened there. I mean, they did lock up Michael King. They Hugh Darvish is trying to decide whether or not he wants to retire or still play.
Right.
And then, of course, the Giants are going to finish sixth.
Internally.
Yeah, the Giants are going to finish 6th and a 5th in a 5-man division.
What do you mean, dude? They signed Harrison Bader. That's the difference maker.
Woo!
He's their new Nick Swisher, and so
I'm going to tell you exactly.
Look, I say that I like Harrison Bader. I think he's awesome, but I just kind of the same thing you were saying with. I mean, really, the rest of the NL West is that none of them have really made any significant move of any ilk. Like, it's just kind of weird.
I'm going to tell you exactly what I told Mikey. I remember the McCourt years when that type of signing would have been a huge signing for the Dodgers, right? We would
Yeah,
have,
I do
this
too.
is awesome.
Oh man, we signed Harrison Bader. Yeah, I look, great player. I love Harrison Bader. I say that about him being a Nick Swisher because he's kind of like that. He's that lighten it up. He Kike Hernandez, a little bit quirky, lighten up the clubhouse, but also know how to play ball. So I like him. I don't like. It's like, what are you doing up there, San Fran? Like you'd think that San Fran and Arizona and the Padres. I mean, you can't count on the Rockies, but you think at least those other three would be making something to try and catch the Dodgers. Like I just don't. I mean, I don't mean to be prideful, but it's like as a fan of the Dodgers, but look, they've won 2 World Series. Like, what are you doing in the division? Like, they've won what, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 11 NL West titles?
Yeah. Well, it's so I'm going to come back to what you said about the Rockies in a second, but let's talk about the West. Can the not can they, because every team has the ability, but are the Dodgers the favorite to win the West, the National West?
For sure. For sure. You're defending champs. Like I said, you've won how many ever out of 10 or 11 or 12, whatever the number is. There's that one weird year that San Fran won it, but then we beat them in the playoffs in the first round. So, I don't know how they're not the favorite. Just with the lineup they have, they got better adding Kyle Tucker's bat into that lineup. Probably a wash as far as defense on that, but I don't know. I just with look, and I get it. There wasn't a lot of guys available, and I also get everyone's whining about the Dodgers and spending money again, and it's like, what do you want them to do?
Yeah,
they have the money. The system is set up the way it is. I'm sorry that none of you other teams owners want to spend a little more money. Like, Yankees, I'm looking in your direction. It's obvious that Hank doesn't have the spending thirst that his dad, George, did for the Yankees. They haven't spent money in years.
Any New York fans out there, Scotty's on his own on this. If you're going to bury anybody under the turnpike, it's Scotty. I am not endorsing, the Yankee fan hate. I've been there. And
I'm not hating on Yankee fans and hating on Hank. I'm just saying the Yankees don't spend like they used to.
No, they don't.
Like everyone wants to complain, but look, were years that the Yankees spent like that the Red Sox spent. Dodgers weren't even the highest paid roster last year in the playoffs. If you look at the numbers, I believe they were the 3rd highest. If you look at the numbers, and everyone's like, oh, well, that's because Shohei deferred all that money. Well, yeah, he did. And thank you, Shohei, for doing that.
Yeah. And thank you, Guggenheim Group, for being willing to do that as well.
Right. Look, I'm sorry, Met fans. I know that you didn't have that same experience with paying a guy over 30 something years. What day is it that he gets paid?
Yeah.
Every year for the Mets for like another 5 years.
July 1st.
July 1st, right? Yeah. Bobby Bonilla Day.
Bobby Bonilla Day.
Look, I'm sorry that didn't work out, but they took the risk and it worked in their favor. And as a baseball fan, do I think there should be a salary cap? Yes. But if you're going to do a salary cap, there needs to be a floor too. Because I'm tired of watching.
That's what I was just going to ask you.
I'm so tired of watching teams like Colorado and Kansas City and others spend $0, have their entire roster makes less money than one player on 20 of the other teams. Like, it's just, if you're going to scream about teams spending too much money, you also got to scream about teams not spending enough money and not keeping their teams competitive and only caring about turning a profit, right? Sports teams were not supposed to be a investment that you're turning a profit. They have always kind of been more of a vanity type of thing, right? And if you can run it away to turn a profit, good for you. But if you're going to scream about the Dodgers, because the Dodgers are turning a profit, even all the money they're spending.
Yep.
Like, if you're going to whine about that, then we need a floor too. If we're going to put a cap on it, and I'm all for it, but also let's put a floor so that you have to be between these numbers, and that'll bring the competitive balance way back to level, especially for a lot of these teams that are perennial doormats.
Yeah. No, I've had this conversation. We had it on the Digital Dugout last week, where Chris Parsons talked about that. He straight out said that. That's exactly what he said. He says, "Hey, listen, if you're going to have a salary cap on dollars spent and a salary cap on deferred compensation, you have to have some type of floor that penalizes owners for not spending X dollars, because they're still making the money. The owners are making the money, right?
Right.
And it's kind of one of those things where you've got to invest money to make money, and people just don't understand that. It drives me absolutely crazy.
Well, and look, as a sports fan of a lot of different teams, when your ownership groups are not willing to spend, at least middle of the road, your team's going to be garbage.
Yeah.
Like maybe you luck into something with some like the Florida Marlins. I don't know why, but a few times they, brought in a couple of high name guys and then had a ton of really good prospects that came out and were playing well, won a World Series, and then they have a fire sale and get rid of everybody, go back to being a doormat for 15 years again. And like those kinds of things would go away if you said, okay, you've got to spend a bare minimum, and here's the maximum you can spend. And I agree with you that, okay, if we're going to do deferred money and that's can be allowed, then there has to be a cap on what that deferred money is too, so that teams can't circumvent the cap by doing deferred money to guys and just loading up on all that. Rob from, but I don't know. My take is just that, like, there are plenty of teams, ownership groups with enough money they could spend a little bit more. And the Dodgers have shown, even when you're spending boatloads, right? Like, because what did they do? They signed 3 of the biggest stars out of Japan. So now they own the island of Japan. They're all Dodger fans.
Well, they were saying something about how
when the Yankees won the World Series last time, all of Japan were Yankees fan because of Matsui.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we know that's a viable thing.
Well, in business, you spend money to make money, right?
And you have to, or you're just gonna flail and head in the wrong direction.
Correct. Yeah, you have to spend money to make money. And okay, so Scotty, who is our competition who's the Dodgers competition do you see in the National League? Give me 2 or 3 teams that you think the Dodgers maybe don't struggle with in the regular season, but might struggle in the playoffs. I say that because the Angels, I talk to Angels fans all the time, and they say, "Oh, we beat you in the regular." I'm like, "Great, we'll go 0-6 every year against you guys if it means that we get jewelry at the end of the year." So I can care less if you're 0-6 against the Angels.
Yep. I think. I mean, the first caveat to that, or the main caveat to that, is with the NL West, you just don't know what's going to happen. Like they're the favorites, but you just don't know what's going to happen. With could be the Giants, could be the Padres, could be the Diamondbacks. Who knows? Just have a great year, catch on fire, like the Giants did a few years ago. But then we beat them in the playoffs. So I don't think long through the playoffs I really worry about the NL West much. And then, I mean, the Mets have made a couple of moves to get better. Juan Soto got a couple more guys around him, and so Mets are going to be trouble. They're one of those teams that kind of get the Dodgers number sometimes. Phillies, they're still the Phillies. They've still got Bryce Harper. They've still got some good pitching. They got a pretty good squad there. Man, I don't know much about the NL Central this year. I mean, it was, last year came down to the wire with the Cubs and Milwaukee, and they both kind of squeaked in and beat the crap out of each other in the process of that, playing each other. So they had nothing left for the Dodgers. And it wouldn't have mattered if the Cubs won that series. They'd have been in the same situation as Milwaukee. They just, they played their rival, and it was a bitter matchup and bitter series. And man, so who knows in the Central, who's even going to come out of there? And maybe the Cardinals they've been down for a couple of years, so maybe this is a year for them to come back. And the NL, that's really who I see mostly, is New York and Philly. I just, and that's it's kind of usual suspects from last year, and I'll probably be wrong. The one of those two will probably not even make the playoffs, but
it would be the first time or the last time that we're wrong.
Yeah,
Mikey mentioned
exactly.
the Braves, and the Braves are actually an interesting conversation.
Yes, because they got a couple of big names going to be coming back from injury. I don't know what happened. I know that was part of it last year, but they just came out of the gate flat last year. The Braves did. Probably don't expect that this year. So yes, Mikey, you're right. I'm glad you brought them up because the Braves are definitely in that conversation too. So basically, I guess basically what I'm saying is it's the NL West against the NL East. So I guess that's what those are the two best. Those are the two I'm seeing because I don't know who's coming out of the Central.
Yeah, I'm looking at their staff, and they look pretty good. I mean, they've got some pitching depth now to them. It's interesting to see what the Braves are doing. One of the teams that is not in the National League, but will give us some trouble in the regular season, and I know I'm breaking my own rule here, is everybody is sleeping right now and they're saying, hey, Seattle. And Seattle's got a great pitching rotation. But what about the Rangers? The Rangers have Jacob deGrom coming back, Nathan Eovaldi, and they just picked up Mackenzie Gore. So they've got a good 1-2-3 punch.
And I felt like they were kind of the AL version of the Braves last year. They came out of the gate a little flat and they never really recovered. And they were fighting and fairly close through the end of the season, but they just never could quite get on that heater that they needed to. So yeah, I think that's one from the AL during the regular. And look, they'd give us, if we saw them in the World Series, they'd give us some trouble.
Oh, 100%. I'm interested to see how Sandy Alcantara bounces back down in Miami. I mean, that's a team that is going to be interesting, right? That's a team that's going to be very, very interesting.
And look, we all know how this works too. You're going to take all the teams that made the playoffs last year, and there's going to be at least a couple of those that don't make it this year, and there'll be somebody else that steps in. It happens every year in all the sports, and nobody's going to predict it exactly correct heading in. And a big part of that comes from, as we've always talked about, injuries. Those are the one factor you can't fully plan for. You don't know who's going to get injured when and how severe.
Well, and I'm looking also too, there's a team that nobody talks about, but they have enough pitching where they can see you later, Mikey. Enjoy dinner. Go get some soy sauce. Inside joke for Mikey. There's a team in the National League that is very, very interesting. And I'm going to read off to you their rotation, and it won't be until the third name that I mentioned that people might recognize it, but the fourth name they will. And this is in no specific order, but Braxton Ashcroft, Bubba Chandler, Mitch Keller, Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
There's enough there to take a 2 out of 3 game series and just to throw a little bit of a monkey wrench in your, in the way, right? So it's an interesting group of guys now obviously we're not going to see them in October. I would be very,
they're going to have to have a miraculous turnaround at the plate as a team for that one to happen. But that's a scary rotation. And look, Paul Skeens is the best pitcher in baseball right now. And I'm not sure it's even, I don't know. I don't know who'd be close. I mean, obviously Yamamoto just showed us what he can do in the World Series at the end of the season, but that's Paul Skeens has some filthy stuff.
Yeah. So does Hunter Green in Cincinnati. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know how to play this thing out, right? But it'll be interesting to see what Cincinnati does. I mean, when I'm looking at records last year in the Central, the Pirates are 71-91. In order for them to make the playoffs, they need to win 23 more games than they did last year. That's tough to do. But Cincinnati was 83-79. Good shot that they can get in, right?
Yeah.
Good shot that they can get in. Colorado was 43-119. They didn't want to show off and lose 120 games, so they stopped it at 119. That was just, they threw the brakes on there. They didn't want to embarrass anybody, right? So, I'm just,
that's so good.
Call it like it is. Okay, so before we get in any deeper into the National League, let's circle back to the American League real quick. Is there any teams in the American League that sound good to you?
I mean, look, the Yankees are going to have a couple of guys. Their biggest problem last year, especially in the postseason, was pitching, and they've got Cole coming back and one other guy coming back. The name's escaping me, but they re-signed, like I said earlier, Cody. He fits the Yankees. That's a great bat to have in that lineup in that stadium, especially against right-handed pitching. Mm-hmm. That short porch out and right, that swing that Cody has. I mean, I was surprised he hasn't had more home runs there since he's been there.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, the Yankees are going to be a usual suspect. The Red Sox have made some moves. Let's be honest, it would be actually kind of nice and fun to have the Red Sox and Yankees rivalry heat up a little bit. I miss the Pete Martin throwing Don Zimmer to the ground days of the Yankees Red Sox rivalries. Those were legendary. Those were amazing to live through those days.
Those were the days.
Look, the AL East is going to be tough again. Toronto, they lost Bo Bichette, but they've kept pretty much everybody else. They'll still be really good. The Orioles maybe can bounce back. I don't know. They've got some pretty good players on that squad, so they're good. But my sense is it's like it usually is every year going into spring training, into the start of the season. It's a Yankees Red Sox division, and that's who you're going to have to go through. Which the Toronto Blue Jays did last year. So, look, Seattle's just a team. I feel like they, who knows? They had another great season. But last time they had a great season, it was another few years before they had another great season. So you just don't know what'll happen there. You brought up the Rangers. They could be tough.
Orioles.
Yeah, well, in that case, that's the whole AL East other than Tampa. Any one of those Tampa teams could end up. Sorry, you're another team that could move to Salt Lake. We'd take you in a heartbeat.
Okay.
We'd probably have to change the name the Rays, although maybe Rays of Light. Maybe that'll be. Anyway,
that's too much. Just put on a jersey, Rays of Light.
It's just that's why they left the Devil Rays, because even that was too much to put on there. So. Yeah. Maybe we don't want Tampa and Salt Lake. I don't know. And then AL Central. I mean, again, the Central divisions for some reason are just kind of up in the air to me. Yeah. The Guardians. Sorry, I almost said their previous name. The Cleveland Guardians. They seem to be at least in the mix every year. The Tigers probably are the favorite in that, I would guess. I don't know. I haven't paid any attention to any moves they've made, so I don't know what any of them have done to get better in the Central, really. So who knows? I know the Guardians signed Jose Ramirez to a big extension, and when you can keep a guy like that, that's important.
Yeah.
For that team, and so that it'll probably come down to Detroit and Cleveland this year.
Yeah.
But really, I think Texas and the Yankees, and really anyone in the AL East but the Rays are the ones to be leery of.
There you go. Well, going back to the National League, go back to the Dodgers. There's another team that we didn't talk about, and that is the Cubs, and the Cubs signing Bregman. Again, another one of these opt out because I have no loyalty type thing deals.
Right.
But that's a Scotty B special right there. Just like, like Cody, right?
Yep.
But the Cubs,
yep, I know I can get more money from you, so I'm going to opt out instead of having any kind of loyalty, and we can get an extension done in the season.
You know what I hate
that's
about
how
that,
I would approach it, but whatever. What do I know?
But
I didn't work for a sports agent or anything.
Is that it forces these guys to have so much pressure on themselves, right? Yeah. I mean, Cody's contract is a perfect example. Year 1, year 2, opt out after year 2, year 3, 4, and 5. Well, you know what? Then Cody's going to go up trying to hit a 5-run home run at every at bat because he knows that he can get more cash 2 years down the road. But if he hits 240 this season and next season he hits 297, what Cody are you getting? He's 2 years older, all this stuff. So, but the Cubs did make himself better with Bregman.
Yeah, they did. And look, I thought the Cubs were going to end up winning the Central this last season. Just didn't quite get there. But the Cubs, you know what? Look, I think the Red Sox have shown and the Cubs have shown once they broke their little curses, you know, they're at least in the mix every year when the season starts. They don't always end up in the mix at the end of the year and playoff time starts, but they're at least part of it along the way for a little bit where, you know, some of these other teams, like when was the last time? I mean, I know Kansas City's been to the World Series a couple times in my lifetime, but when was the last time they were any good?
So we have seen a couple of Cinderella teams the last couple of seasons. So Scotty, anybody outside of Toronto that thought the Blue Jays were going to be 2 defensive outs away from winning World Series at the beginning of last season, they're lying to you, right?
Yeah.
In fact, you know, rewind even further, if you asked any Mets fan, and I've talked to a lot of Mets fans, but if you ask any Mets fan, would they have thought that they were going to be in the National League Championship Series in 24? And the answer is no. None of them would have thought that their team was going to be there at that specific time, right?
Right. Well, look, I think probably a lot of Toronto fans, if deep down, didn't really think they'd be in the World Series and have that close of a shot to winning it when the season started. You know, maybe as it rolled on, you start to feel a little more confident in your team. You know, but yeah, I don't think anybody that wasn't a fan saw that coming last year.
There's a lot of moving parts too, and people joke about, you know, offense sells tickets, defense wins games. But you look at what Kiki did in Game 6 by faking like he wasn't going to be able to catch the ball, and he actually catches it and beelines it back to second to double him up to end the game. You think at what Andy Paez did in center field, saying, "Sorry, Kiki, I'm taller than you. I'm going to grab this ball." Right. I mean, there's defense comes into play super key.
We brought him up. Miggy Rojas had a couple of picking the ball at second base. I mean, that's not easy to do, and that's hard enough to do with that big old first baseman's mitt that Freddie the Teeth's wielding over there. It's another thing with that little infielder's glove that you're, you know, most of those infielders' gloves are tiny. So it is defense is important, and I think this last World Series showed how important, you know, defense can be.
Yeah, and I mean, even going in, we were watching the game, and Scotty, you and I were texting, but we weren't texting during the game. But Amber and I were with a huge Dodger fan. We were at a pizza place in Lake Forest, and I can't remember the left-hander's name, but he was eating us alive. He was hitting like 450, and we walked him on 4 pitches, and I looked at Amber and this other person that was with us. She was freaking out. She's like, "Why did we do that?" I said, "Well, it's real simple why we did that. That's what you call a non-intentional intentional walk. The guy's killing us right now. We've now set ourselves up for a double play. We got a guy coming up to the plate that could hit a ball on a fly to left center field and bounce off the wall and still get thrown out at first base. So we got a shot, right? No disrespect to Alejandro Kirk. I think he's amazing talent, but we got a shot.
He just ain't fast. He ain't fast.
No, he's not. He's not. But I mean, we got a shot for a double play. Just break his bat, and hopefully we get a ground ball double play, and we're good to go.
Yeah. Well, it's the same approach Toronto took in that game, walking Shohei a bunch of times intentionally, and yeah, that's a little different when you just put him on. Because what you're doing, as you know, is you're throwing him 4 balls and hoping maybe he's pressing because he wants to end this game, and so he'll swing at a pitch outside the zone. But we're not going to give him anything he can put real good wood on. But yeah, that's just, look, you and I talked about that as well last year into the season, that we'd like to see more small ball, more coaching like that. And I know that's a defensive side move, but that's a small ball move. Putting a guy on base and not wanting to throw him a pitch to hit, and trust getting that double play back in and hoping you can turn that. And they did.
Yeah. And that's why to me, Tommy Tanks is so important, because the Dodgers have a situation where you think every at bat is going to be a home run. I mean, let's face it. There's not, now 1 through 9, there's not a player in that lineup that couldn't hit 15 or more home runs a season.
Right.
But Tommy puts the ball in play. He goes oppo. He's a switch hitter. He does a lot of things at the plate that are very characteristic of a really good contact hitter, and those things get missed in baseball a lot, because he can go 6 for 10 in a series, or 6 for 11 in a series, and nobody's going to talk about that if Max hit 3 home runs in the series. Now, mind you, Max may have gone 3 for 11 and hit 265, but he hit 3 bombs. So we're going to talk about that.
It's the old Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine commercial, right? For those of us that grew up in the 80s and 90s, the chicks dig the long ball.
Chicks dig
like
the long
that.
ball.
It's just, I know that's not PC, but that's what it is. People who are watching baseball, not just the chicks, everybody, not just, it's men, women, children, everybody watching baseball. They love home runs. I love home runs. I love the crack of the bat. I love hearing a home run, especially when it's my team.
Of course,
that's so. But to your point, that guy who's going 6 for 10 with 6 singles is just as, if not a little more important. I don't know.
Yeah. I agree with you. I completely agree with you. And this is, I mean, I've been on a lot of X Spaces lately, because we've got our calendar planned out of where we're going to go and where we're flying to, and all of these crazy things, right? We're opening in Cincinnati against the Red Sox. We'll be out there for that. And so I've been on these X Spaces, and a lot of Yankees and Mets fans have been on. And, it's interesting to watch the dynamic of both teams and the fan bases of both teams. Because in New York, you expect to win. And we were having a little bit of a debate yesterday. I was on one of them yesterday, and a debate about Elly De La Cruz. And would Elly De La Cruz be as good of a talent if he played in Queens or the Bronx, right? Where when you go 4 for 27, they're going to let you know about it. And would Bobby Witt Jr. be as good as he is if he played for the Mets or the Yankees? And we don't know the answers to those.
Exactly.
So, I feel like I'm in a Bruce Lee movie right now. You were typing out. I thought you had this big thing, and you see the mouth move like this much, and then he's like, "Yes."
I was actually committing the live broadcast crime. I was texting my sister back real quick. So.
Oh, good.
But I was listening, and you're spot on. You're right on with it. So, but no, look. There's some unknowns you go into. We know who the favorites are, but we'll see what happens. And who knows? Remember how Max Muncy started the season last year?
Yeah.
It was awful. But if you look at where his numbers ended up to where he was mid-May, he had a pretty stellar second half. So look, the key with everything is if we can stay as healthy as possible, if we can peak at the right time.
Yeah.
And they've done that the last 2 years. Somehow, look, I'm not denying, somehow they squeaked out that World Series. That was Hollywood stuff. That was some of those, the comebacks, the big long game, Yamamoto. I mean, just all of it. That was drama at its highest, and it was awesome.
No,
go Dodgers,
Scotty. When Los Dientes hit that home run to end that 18-inning game, I thought, okay, we just stepped on their throat. Now, mind you, game one, we had one bad inning. It wasn't a dominant. I mean, I know Toronto won by like 7 runs, but we had that one bad inning where we gave up a bunch of runs. Otherwise, it would have been 3-1. The Dodgers would have won game one.
Right.
They did what they did in game two and took it back. And then Freddie hits the home run. I thought for sure, hey, we just stepped on their throat. And then
Toronto I did too. I thought that was it, because when you play those long, I mean, that was 2 games basically in one night. And when you play those long games and lose, that can really, it doesn't always, and the Blue Jays proved it, but that can really just be a morale killer for your team. Like, geez, we can't even win.
Ladies and gentlemen, not to pick on Scotty, but he went to public school too. 9 + 9 is 18. Yes, it was 2 full games, not like 2 full games, but that's okay. Math.
No, that's just that was just a California adjective. That was left over from my days in California.
Dude, right?
Like,
you should start it with dude.
Like, are you crazy? It'll be jammed. That was just my Californian's accent slipping out of me. Sorry. But no, it was two games, and you're right. You're absolutely right. I thought the same thing you did.
Yeah, I thought for sure it was over. But then they said hold our Gatorade, and they came back and won game 4 and game 5, and then we got to go to Toronto and win 2 more games in a row.
I know.
And then it was defense. It was defense, and Yamamoto didn't care whether or not he blew out his arm or not. He was getting a World Series championship. He was.
Yes, he's like, this is it. We're doing this. I'm not gonna not get this. Put us on his shoulders. No, exactly. Look, kudos to Toronto in that too, because I thought that right after when they won game 4. I was like, kudos to them for not letting last night just completely derail them. And 100%. Then I was really mad. I was really mad when they won game 5 to send it back to Toronto. So, but that's what you got.
It happens. It happens. Well, a couple of things, everybody. We want to thank Scotty for being on. Scotty and I do a lot of these audio versions, so now you can put a face to the name. He has done a lot with Top Fan. He was one of the first people I interviewed. He's been a great friend through this whole journey with Top Fan. We just absolutely love him. He's in the 27-ounce break, so every month he actually has 2 teams. So every month you don't get the Dodgers, and on the 2 box breaks, you don't get the Dodgers or the Pirates. Scotty's got them. And he nailed it. But we've got some incredibly big announcements coming up with Top Fan Rivalry here very, very soon. And we're excited to do that. If you're not part of the clubhouse, go to topfanrivalry.com and click on the clubhouse. It's free to join. You'll see articles in there. You'll see different things in there. I just posted an article about the Rangers. I have another one that's coming up here pretty quick. The other thing is we do want to thank our corporate sponsors, and we do want to mention our friend Emma one more time. Emma is in elementary school. She is doing a readathon for her school. They did it today, read, run a thon, and they're still going to keep the donations up for another week. So if anybody's looking or has the means to donate to an elementary school child, her mother is a huge Dodger fan. She's actually been on here a number of times with us, done live with us as well. She's number 3, I've been told. The top 7 get to throw a pie in either their parents' face and or the principal's face. So we want to keep her in the top 7. Thank you, Terrence Edwards at Tech Law Ventures, for being a corporate sponsor of ours. Thank you, Blaine Birch over at BHR Law Group. We appreciate it. We couldn't do this without you. Scotty, any final comments as we got less than a minute left to go on the show? Any final comments?
Just I'm excited for baseball season. I will probably be playing golf instead of watching the Super Bowl. And I can't wait for baseball season.
He's a Broncos fan, so I understand why. All right, everybody. We will be back live at this same time next week. doing the Dirty Water Dispatch and TFR. We've got a guest coming on. There's rumors that we have Danny Tion coming on, Louis Tion's son, but we'll check that soon and we'll confirm it. Scotty, stick around. Everybody, we thank you for watching. If you watched it live and or on the repeat, appreciate you and have a fantastic evening. We'll talk to you next week.